Hello world, and welcome to another episode of Kerbal Space Program with me, your host, not really, Stimpy. As you can see from all this debris, I can't stop playing this game, even when not recording. Most of these are from several failed attempts to launch one space vehicle. It's unfortunate, a lot of these are just floating around RCS tanks that exploded and are now on orbit. Oh well. Anyway, down to the meat and bones. This episode is going to mainly focus on the vehicle assembly building, and more specifically, parts. Because when you have a load of mods like I do, it's quite overwhelming. So I'm just going to go through the various fairings, shrouds, that sort of things, and just tips on how to use them and what goes with what, because there's a lot and they don't all work with each other at all. So the right piece has to go with the right plate and all that sort of nonsense. We're slowly drifting forward. Only one wheel has brakes, and that's the one on the front. We're also going to go over a little bit about part placement and how you can sort of invert and rotate parts. It's all very kind of cockeyed, and some things don't work. But first, we're going to have a little fly around in the Turbo Kerb. This is mostly C7 aerospace and experimental pack, with the Maylong RCS there, and also my little homemade mech jeb, the little brown, or grey rather, band just behind the cockpit. The engines, however, are Damn You Japan's turboprop engines from his pack with all the airplane parts, and they're lovely, they work lovely. I've also got a little Cosmos inverter in there, but we won't worry about that too much. So let's take off. Don't expect me to actually land on the runway at all, because this took about 4 attempts, and that was by sheer luck. So let's throttle up, shall we? Oh, she just wants to lift off. Look at her. And gear up. Beautiful. See if we can cross the sea, huh? Yeah, I love flying planes. Or now let's crossing the sea's boring, so let's just fly like a maniac. I like flying like a maniac. Remember, turning is kind of easier if you throttle down sometimes. You don't need to be on full throttle at all, actually, with flying. Depends what you're trying to do. This thing flies really good around 14 kilometers, because you can get a good speed up. I had this up to 1200 meters a second, which isn't too shabby, I don't think. She landed too, in one piece. Do realise I'm upside down, but Jeb's loving it. Jeb is loving it. Also, we've got that on, so it's... Wee! Madman spin. No. Planes are so fun to fly. I know the game's not meant for planes, but oh well. I'm just here mashing the WASD keys. There's the launch pad. Look at all that debris. It's terrible. Yeah, just thought I'd have a little fly around first. See, when I'm bored, I'll go on Kerbal Space Program and just build something. You know, spend 10 minutes throwing parts together and see if it works. See if we can buzz the tower a bit. Ground's coming up pretty fast. I wish the camera followed better. Chase never really seems to work. It's close enough, isn't it? Oh shit. Oh, lovely. Anyway, down to business, down to business. Let's go to the old VA. Okay, let's go through payload fairings and whatnot. Structural and aerodynamic. Now, there are lots of different types, various different manufacturers. These are the main two that I often see. I used to use these ones down here, the Carl and Winston ones. They're both Carl and Winston. How helpful is that? Right, so let's start off with these ones up here. They come in 1.75, 2 meter, and 3 meter. I think there might even be a 1 meter one somewhere. No, there isn't. Don't be silly. Okay. Now, with these, there's a couple of things to remember. Their base plates, their fairing plates, that what you attach whatever you want in, are actually the couplers. That's an important thing to remember. These two, let's get ones that are actually the same size. So we'll work on 1.7 meter for the moment, just for the fun of it. Right, these two are both the couplers. So when I put that on there, I don't need anything in between it. Now I would just put the shroud over the top, and all shrouds are symmetry. Sometimes it's 4 times, sometimes it's 2 times. Here you've only got 2 nodes on the side, so it's 2, and there you go. Staging will always muck up, usually. What you want is, of course, your 2 radial ones with the vertical lines here to eject first, then your horizontal line one here to eject, and then your capsule is released, or whatever it is, satellite, whatever. And that is pretty much standard for all of them. That's how they work. There's another little detail that I'll get into later. Now, these two, I picked them both, and they're both the same size. Do you see a difference? Of course you do. This one is bigger. This one is about 2 meters. This one is a 1.75 meter connection. They both are, but the second set down here actually have a wider fairing. So that's that wide, but this first one here is only going to be that wide all the way up. Let's take this off to the side. Sometimes they're a little bugger to grab. You have to grab them from the edge. Attach there, and 1.7. As you can see, there's a big difference in size. Although they fit the same base here, this second ones with the conical opening here are obviously wider. So their size listed on these ones here is actually relative to the connection point, not the payload. So say you have a 2 meter payload, you not necessarily won't need a 3 meter one of these ones. You may only need the 2 meter one because you could fit it safely within. So that's that. These ones here, this first one that I have attached right now, they're my favourite. I love them because I usually then attach them to the rocket with any number of parts. Here's a good one. This one is from the Nova Punch pack, I believe. It's just got a little node there and it attaches like that. Also there's another node there, and it can, you see what I mean? Sometimes there's like a hidden double node because they're overlapping so much. You can bring it in, and it doesn't look the neatest, but this is also a miniature fuel tank as well. That's a good thing to note. Some of these are hollow, some of these are fuel tanks. So if I've got this other one, which is the same size, it's 1.75 to 1 meter, but as you can see, the node is right down the bottom there, and it's completely hollow. This is itself an actual decoupler, whereas this is actually a miniature fuel tank, which can be handy. Alright, moving on. Yeah. This sort of thing, for the bigger size, like, say, yeah, there's a 3 meter one as well. See, if you had a really huge payload, you could have the 3 meter one here. Look at the size of that monster. That's 3 meters, so the opening here is like it's basically 3.5 to 3.75 meters here, something like that. The plates are again an issue sometimes, because you have to have the right plates to the right thing, and it's bloody obvious sometimes. Like, this is a 3 meter fairing, but these are 3 meter plates. That ain't right. And hopefully your parts are ordered nicely in the list here. Like, these parts are usually always ordered nicely. So you have the upper cone, you have the fairings, and then these pieces go to them. Same here, you have the cone, then the base plate, then the sides. So if we grab the 3 meter of this, which is actually nearly 4 meters, see, tons of room in that one. So that's a good one if you have something very, very large to launch. There are other exceptions. This is one of the newer ones. I believe it's quite new. This is from the Nova Punch pack. It's actually pretty new, and you get a 1 to 1.25 base here, which is pretty. Ooh, is that me, or there's a node broken on that? One of the nodes is actually lower than the other. I wonder if that's a bug that's been fixed or something, and I've got an outdated pack. Okay, I'll have to look into that. Yeah, these two ones here, the node is too low. Okay, we'll stick to the example on this one then, because this one has the nodes correct. Now, this one can be a little bugger to place. First off, if you notice, this one, it's not a decoupler. It's just a structural strut symbol down here, look. So we have to actually get ourselves a proper decoupler. You can use whatever you like. For interior ones, I just use this mechanical one, which comes with Nova Punch. Is that going to fit in there? Yes. Just like that. Now, as you can see, it's got 5 nodes basically on the top. Usually people build looking at in the same sort of angle of view as normal. So when you go to attach it, oh, look at that, what happened there? So a trick with this, and this might seem obvious to some, it might not to others, it really, whatever, I'm just doing this because it might be helpful. It's just if you come on angle, so that the first one, the 2 nodes come together there, the first they see is the correct one, and then that should just snap, and then perfect. And why is my game lagging all of a sudden a lot? One moment. I just needed to restart the recording. Anyway, where were we? Yeah. This is the Nova Punch miniature sort of shroud, fairing, payload fairing, whatever the hell you want to call it. Now, this particular one, it has a few different pieces of all different sizes, and it's a little bit more complex. This one is made to go with the Odin OTV and stuff like that. It's actually a really nice one. I've been using it a fair bit. This has 4 node points, as you see, so we go 4-way symmetry. Symmetry. There we go. Now, it's got other sizes too. So, say we had something with a classic sort of like, the stock capsule up here. Now, we might have like a launch escape tower, like the classic Apollo rocket. So we wouldn't want that inside the shroud. So there's these as well. So those can come up nicely to the sides of your capsule, and the capsule will finish off the point. Yeah, so that's cool. I don't think they've got. No, they don't. So that's a end piece, and of course you've always got the ones like those. Now, as you can see here, the staging has actually where are these pieces? Yep, these cone pieces up here aren't actually decouplers, so they won't blow away, they're just strut pieces, so these are the only ones, the radial, that blow off. Yeah, so that's another one. Now there is another one as wow. I think this next one is from it's a Captain Slug part, so I'm pretty sure this is from Nova Punch. Yeah, just another part they've got somewhere hanging out. Now these, once again, don't have decouplers. I rarely use these ones. They're good for very, very heavy, sort of hardy jobs. So, where are you? I'm getting lost again in my parts. Now, these go up to the 3 meters again, and they come with this base plate, which isn't a decoupler, of course. So you have to supply your own basically. But you do have all these different sizes of parts. Now, you can tell these ones usually very much apart from the others because they have quite a unique texture compared to the other ones. They're very worn looking, and I've never really successfully got those to work, to be honest. But that should go on like single. Yeah, I don't really use those. Never really worked them out too well, but that might be handy for someone. This end cone here for these ones is a solid piece, and it only attaches on one side, so you won't use symmetry for that. But it does have other pieces like this, which would use symmetry, and they're a very, very strong one, I've found. Some payload fairings have a tendency to wobble ever so slightly the longer they are, but those ones are usually pretty decent. Now, here's a complex one. This is from the Nova Silisco pack, the Nova Silisco's Silisco edition pack. So we're going to go with the 1 meter because we've got quite a tiny module here. Now, this is a decoupler. This is a decoupler in its own right. So just pulling off my own engines here. Let me fix that. Come on, back on you go. There we go. So we just attach that to the bottom, and that fits snugly. Now, if I just grab one of these side pieces, I think, oh well, I'd want a long one because, well, it's got to go over the top, so I might as well start off with the long ones. Yeah? And I do that. Looks okay, doesn't it? Going like this, and then just put a nose on it. There's the 1 meter nose. Cool, huh? No, that wouldn't work at all. Because if you look down at the bottom list here, these 3 parts, they're all structural. There's no radial decoupler for them to fire off. If you look, there will be a fairing decoupler piece. Now if you just hover over the icon here, where's the other one? Is that it? No. See, I can't. There it is. Now, while on the inside rotation, you'll note there's a little block in there. That's a good way of indicating these are your decouplers. They're your decouplers, and everything else after that is the majiggy. It's a technical term, majiggy. And if you want to be fancy, this they've got a really nice texture inside, by the way. Nova Silisco's really good at texturing, I've found. But he's actually got pieces that you can alternate between sizes and go a bit crazy, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, look, that's ridiculous. But that'll work as a payload shroud when these 2 bottom pieces here fire off, and it'll take the whole piece with it. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully, that made sense. There are other more complex ones which are a little bit strange that I've never really used other than the standard, such as the Noyu's capsule one here, which kind of goes over and then blows off. It's a bit weird. I think that's all the payload shrouds. It's yeah. And you got a lot of these other parts here, which these are just like your intermediate stage decouplers to hide engines and whatnot. Some of them go deeper than others. for stuff. Sometimes they use these kinds of cones for various tops of boosters. Good thing to remember with the staging though, so you don't have any accidental parts flying through others, is that these parts here are actually the couplers too. So at some point in the staging, if they're lined up, they'll just go clonk and fall off. Yeah. It can be funny sometimes. Yeah, I think I've covered all the ones. Yeah, I think that's all the payload fairings. These ones, I don't even know what they go to. Where are these from? Down Under Aerospace? Nah, I don't know. I have no idea. They've probably got some mounting point. I have no idea. Yep. They look like they attached straight to a fuel tank or something. How about that for a learning experience? Let's have a look, shall we? Let's find some sort of big old fuel tank. Here we go. It's another one from Down Under Aerospace. No. Oh. Two-way symmetry. Oh, there we go. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Doesn't have a mounting point in itself. It's just radially attaches. So, yeah. There we go. There's another one that works differently than the others. It doesn't have a specific node attaching point. So, yeah. You can tell how often I use some of those parts, you know? And that was a 2-piece, and this looks like it's going to be 4 pieces. There we go. It's not bad. That texture even matches, because they're made by the same guy. Not bad. Not bad. I might have to remove that logo or make it a little smaller down here. That's probably why I don't use it, actually. Too many logos. Land-based. What else? What else? Let's go into the talk about the connecting things in strange ways. There are many different ways and different techniques to actually try and rotate parts. One of the best ways, I think, is I've got this little part here. This is just a single part by Ep11, the Epsnode Alpha. And it's just so bloody handy if you're making a space station or something. There are other parts that do it now, like this little invisible part. He still hasn't fixed that, I don't think. But this is actually from the base pack and is a lot newer. It might work a bit better than this, I don't know. I don't like comparing that sort of stuff. But to make an example... what am I doing? Breaking everything. To give an example is, I'll shove that fuel tank there, and I will grab some Probodyne struts and put them like that. Okay? Now, I've got these flat solar panels that go on the body like that. Cool, huh? Yeah, they're decent, but I want them flat along the top surface here, but I can only place them there. That's no good, is it? So, what I do is I do this. We attach it to the bottom. This is something one may have to grow accustomed to, building things in different places. So if I put it on the end like this using the nodes, I can place solar panels along it. We're just placing. Now if I take this off, look at that. See? So we've effectively changed the rotation angle of those objects just by simply building them up here. Now, sometimes it works different depending on whether you're building on top of an object or below an object, because of course you have the reverse and top side nodes, so it might come out differently depending on what you do. Another method of achieving that is, I don't, as I've said a few million times before, I don't run the Cosmos pack because it's intense. It's really intense. They're lovely parts. Nothing against them. They're beautiful parts. They're just intense. But what I did grab from the pack is their inverter sets. These things are brilliant. Let's go for this big chunky one. This is a 1 meter inverter. What the inverter does is it does exactly what it says on the tin. It inverts. So let's, for example, take... you know what? It's a good one. We'll take a nose cone. We'll take... is that the 1 meter one? No, wrong part. This is a 1 meter nose cone. Goes like that. Cool, huh? This is an inverter. This is a 1 meter nose cone. Goes like that. Not anymore, it doesn't. How cool is that? That can be useful, because if you wanted to build something slightly reversed, you might have to just place an inverter, giving that accent in there, me. Yeah, see, reverse fuel tank there. So you may have to build something on radially attached or something to an inverted tank, then take the piece off, like, say you had something attached at the bottom or something, which is now the top. Because it's inverted, the piece itself may be inverted, so when you radially attach it to something else, it may be different. It's, you know, it's all just about playing around, but the inverters do help, and they help a lot. Something I've not really played around with actually, but in the base pack are these side mount adapters, which they radially attach themselves, which is brilliant. Cool, huh? Brilliant. But not only that, as you can see, they have their own node points. They have their own node points, which is kind of ridiculous, but that can be handy. That can be handy. So let's do something ridiculous, shall we? Let's do something completely, absolutely ridiculous. Now here's the thing. I can't place that there. Look how it's going wrong, but I want to place one going down. So this is a perfect example of us having to place a part. Sometimes they spaz. Place a part like that, yeah? And I think the correct place would be there. Now, if I take that off, that's not going to be right, is it? Yes, it is. And do that. As you can see, it's got it on the bottom in the right way. That's a perfect example of changing the angles to suit your needs. I completely cockeyed that up. See, another thing to remember is, though, if I want to I mean, it goes all squiffy again like that. I have to actually put it down here, do the whole business again to achieve what I want. And effectively I could just whack some more fuel tanks on there, a couple of engines. There's a problem. There's a problem right there. We've got a problem. That engine was reversed, because the way these nodes work, they work reversed. So this is a perfect use for our little inverter friends, wherever the hell they are. Come here. There we go. Let's go with one of these huge ones just for a giggle. Now this will invert the tank to the correct way so the engines fit. And we'll use this nice little fuel line we've got here. Make sure it all drains in a strange manner. There we go. Lovely. See if that even works. Probably ridiculous, but still, it's just an example, and your bits can go in different kind of orders. It's all about playing with what basically collision you can get away with in parts, because some parts they really don't like intersecting with others, some they couldn't care less. There we go, it's flying, sort of. Whee! Sorry about that little lag there. I usually actually wait and let the world generate before flying off, but disturbingly, this is flying pretty well. Wouldn't want to land it, but yeah, look at that. The fuel's draining from which tanks is it? It's draining from. Yeah, it's draining from these two tanks here, then it'll drain from the middle, then these bottom ones, and that'll keep a nice equal weight distribution. That's something else to keep a note in rocket design in general, or plane design. As you burn fuel, the mass, of course, changes. So, an empty tank weighs less than a full one. It's obvious, yeah, I know. But if you've got a plane built with the standard fuselages, it's going to get really light up at the nose all the time. So sometimes, if you've got a plane that wants to just buck upwards and down, and midway through a flight, you may want to think about redirecting the fuel or something, like using fuel lines or something to drain from the middle of the vehicle first or something. You know, let's end that. That's kind of annoying. But yeah, hopefully this is helpful to someone. I don't think I actually have time to fly anything else for this episode or do anything like that, as I have to go out. It was my birthday yesterday, so I'm going out for dinner. Aha, happy birthday me. That's also my excuse for the sort of slowdown in videos in the very recent times, because it's my birthday. Wow, only one of the days anyway. Ha! I was only born on one day. Let's see if we can... Yeah, I tell you what. Let's launch a vehicle without touching anything. Let's launch the Commodore 2 if I can find it. Here's a rocket I built while having some fun. Standard design. But I tell you what. After some playing, we don't need this huge fuel tank. Actually, we do. No, we don't. We don't at all. We can downgrade it to... Where are you? 2 of these ones. And I'm sure that'll be enough to do the job. A little bit, oh sorry, hitting the mic. And that'll be just a little bit more fuel efficient. Check the staging. Staging seems okay. And launch. Yeah, and the lovely thing about this particular rocket is it flies with MechJeb. So we can just sit back and watch, you know, whip out the whiskey that we smuggled on board. And here we are with Orsil, Billy Bobrick and Milcott. I'm just going to launch this back up, as I usually end or start these videos while halfway through something. Seems to be a thing. I'm going to restart the video just to let everything generate a bit better.